Welcome to the Mala Podcast. In today's episode, we have the privilege of sitting down with a trailblazer in the music industry, Faisal Lateef. His remarkable journey began in 2008 when he immersed himself in producing music for local artists in Central Florida. As his passion for the craft grew, so did his influence in the industry. While pursuing his education at the University of Florida in 2012, Faisal founded New South Music, a management agency that played a pivotal role in shaping the careers of recording artist Nico Is and producer Thanks Joey. Under Faisal's guidance, New South facilitated collaborations with renowned labels and artists, including South Smoke, Action Bronson, Caroline Records, Javadi Media, and Talib Kawali. Currently serving as a general counsel for Avant Gardner, Brooklyn Mirage, City Fox, and Made Event, Faisal brings his legal expertise to advise various departments within the organization. His contributions extend to navigating acquisitions, co-promotion relationships, and negotiating deals with major agencies for historic events at the Brooklyn Mirage. Hazel, thank you so much for joining us. I've always had a love for music, but it's that's not that special that I say that because most, if not all, living things enjoy music. I think like insects to some degree, but I
Yeah,
know some studies show that even plants have a reaction to music.
it's true.
So it's
Absolutely.
really fascinating, and music
Yeah,
also plays an effect on the human brain on a really deep level, which is why we have music therapy. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you here with, Mala and our little organization. I think we're really off to something big here.
absolutely. And first and foremost, thank you and Mala for having me. I think what you guys are doing is incredible for the community, and honored to be on the podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I think I don't see a lot of brown representation in the music game. Maybe
yeah.
like DJ Khaled, but he's really out there. And I don't know what grade I was in. I was still like in school when Arab Money came out. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Yes.
everybody was playing it like
Yeah,
crazy. That Oh
yeah.
my god, and they were like, "Oh, you're Arab, you must be rich," like DJ. I'm like, "No, I'm a Pakistani immigrant,
Right.
dad's
Yeah.
a taxi driver. I don't know what I'm doing in life. Like, I'm in like elementary school or middle school. Like, it's a neat song, but I can't really
Yeah, for
with that.
sure.
I guess it's my heritage. I was so young back then. I had no idea what my heritage really was.
It's so funny because like early on, there was such few, the amount of representation was so far and few that we had to lean into anything that it was like overtly Arab or Indian or so yeah, I mean representation is twofold, right? It's like the artists themselves and then the people in the industry as well. So I think both are growing a lot, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to
Yeah.
see more artists, more, and not just artists, but people in the background, like people
Yeah.
doing the actual nitty-gritty work. Because the artist really does the little bit of performing, they're the face of it,
Right.
and behind them is a team of, like, 1,000 people doing, the social media, the legal work, the media
Right.
production, and, like, the cameras don't work themselves. You need to have, cameramen who are union and writers and producers. So, in every, like, media production sense, there's so many people to a team, and I would love to see more brown representation in that, and
Yeah, I mean, going back to even what you said about like DJ Khaled, I'm sure in the beginning of his career, he himself Middle Eastern, but how many people on his team were Middle Eastern, So I think full representation is when like the whole team is representing the culture and the values, and that's when the final product is really more, culturally informed, if I were going to put it that way.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, getting back to you, you're the focus of our, little meeting here today. What really got you started in the music industry? Like, go back to like your earliest memories of getting
Yeah.
started.
Sure, for sure. Well, my journey really began when I met a local rapper in Orlando. Um, he had the kind of same sound and feel as like a Lil Wayne. At the time, I was just messing around with like GarageBand, and I showed him a beat that I was working on. He loved it, and he just recorded vocals on it that same day on the spot, with like a little, Microsoft microphone, which is what we were working with back then, or like maybe it was a Yeti. I don't really recall, but the song was called "Hater Neighbors," and it was about like nosy neighbors. And I immediately just like fell in love with the process of like we're just shooting the shit and talking about like a funny concept, and then just bringing it to life like an hour later, and it was a song, and to me back then it was like a Billboard top 10 hit, but I'm sure it would be pretty cringy if I were to play it now. But just the process in of itself is something I immediately like took to and fell in love with, and just how seamless it was with digital production where you could just do it right there on the spot. So I just kept at it, and I graduated to other programs like Logic Pro and FL Studio. And yeah, the rest is history.
Hater Neighbors is what it was
Hater
called.
Neighbors, yeah. It's kind of
I
catchy,
think,
right? I should
yeah,
bring
that's
that back.
catchy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm
it's
just
still
gonna
relatable.
rehash it in 2024.
Do it. Let's bring it back because it's always relatable. Like
Yeah,
these neighbors are always on your shit. They're just
yeah.
always down your throat, especially in Florida.
Oh
Because
yeah, for
we
sure.
spent the summer in Florida this year, like the whole
Yeah,
summer.
yeah,
My
yeah.
girlfriend's grandparents have a house down there, and
Nice.
we like every year for like the past few years, we've gone there to, spend time at Disney and
Yeah,
be away from New York, which is really nice because sometimes you really got to get away from the city.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're the opposite of snowbirds. Unfortunately, the snowbirds go down in the winter, but we've
Go
always
down
gone
there,
down in
yeah.
the summer when it's 100 degrees in the shade at
It's rough
night.
out there in the summer. Yeah,
It's rough, the
absolutely.
humidity and the
Yeah,
mosquitoes, but for the most part, you're going from your air-conditioned house to
right.
your air-conditioned car to the air-conditioned mall or your air-conditioned job. So,
Oh yeah, AC is king
yeah.
out there. There'd be nothing down there if it wasn't for AC.
Oh, yeah, air
So
conditioning's done a lot for helping us expand to the South.
yeah.
I think there's like a video or a documentary on that. I remember seeing something about air conditioning helping us expand to the South.
I
That's
think
a
that's
really
what I was referring to. There's literally like nothing down there prior to the advent of the AC. So it literally wouldn't be like a Florida, or definitely not in Orlando, because it's in Central Florida.
yeah,
But what was cool about Orlando, and what maybe a lot of people don't know who just think, it's Disney, is that it's such a melting pot of people. Like, because as you said, snowbirds, you got people coming from New York and Texas and, the West Coast. And so you get a lot of like that East Coast influence, which is really cool, especially like from a hip hop standpoint.
yeah. Orlando's really nice. They have fantastic restaurants. Uh,
Yeah.
my girlfriend's grandparents live in Tampa. Well,
Okay.
it's really it's like half an hour north of Tampa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a really nice little community. They also have a neighbor issue because some of the neighbors are really
They
nosy.
got hater neighbors up there.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
hater neighbors, and we experienced it when we were over there this year. One of them
Yeah.
comes over and she's like, "Oh, you gotta put your garbage cans away," and I'm like, "They just took the trash."
So petty.
Like, we just woke up, like,
Yeah.
it's trash day, like, they just took it, like, yeah, well, we've always taken them in the
Yeah.
same day that the trash has been taken out. So, like, relax. Where were you the 50 million times that we've been taking the
Seriously, people just have like way too much free time down there. Like that's
Yeah,
one thing I love about New York. Like everyone's just kind of like super in their own world, and like living this like at a faster pace. They don't have time to to tell you, to lecture you about your
yeah, and
garbage habits.
us New Yorkers have that, mind your business mentality
Oh my God, I love
where
that. I
where
love
they
that.
have New York City, the government of New York had to make a whole campaign to try to get New Yorkers to say something. The "See Something, Say
Oh
Something"
right.
campaign, it's because New Yorkers minded their own business so well
Yeah.
that the
They're
government
not
was
even
like,
going to
"Hey."
see anything.
Yeah,
There's no eye contact on the
like,
train.
me and my girlfriend were driving around trying to find parking one day, This is like a year or two ago, and I saw somebody that looked like they were breaking into a car, and
Yeah.
I was like, "You see that?" And, she was like, "Yeah, but that's not my business." I'm like, "What do you mean it's not your business?" Like, I guess it's not your business, but, like, you gotta, like, call somebody. So, like,
Right,
"Okay,
right.
you can do it." Like, "I'm gonna mind my own business." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." Like, I'll
I
do it.
really fell in love with that when I came up here from Florida because it's a nice thing, but people are really cordial and friendly in Florida. Like they'll just talk to you, they'll just pass you on the street and try to strike up a conversation with you, you know?
Yeah.
And I never was a huge fan of that. So I really took to the mind your business rule in New York.
It really is mind your business. I lived in Virginia when I
Yeah,
was, stationed in the Army, and I got used to saying hi to everybody there.
I
Like,
know.
especially on base, on a military
Yeah.
base, if you didn't say hi to somebody, it was kinda like flipping them off. So,
And
when
it's
I
like up here, you say hi to someone, they'll think you're a psychopath
that
and you're
I that happened to
trying to
me.
mug them. Yeah.
That happened to me, like, a few times before I realized, I gotta cut that out. I was there for a
Yeah.
few years on active duty,
Yeah.
and I got so used to it because active duty, I'm there every single day,
Right.
full time, living in a different place, and the culture, you really, if you let yourself, you drink the Kool-Aid. I've always drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, "Okay, cool, you gotta blend in, you
You
gotta
gotta adapt.
you gotta
Yeah.
adapt, otherwise it's gonna, chew you up and spit you out,
Right.
and have a bad time." So I was like, "Perfect, like, cool." I'll say hi to random people I don't know, and it was so nice and friendly, and you
Yeah.
didn't like it, but I loved the hang like, the friendliness aspect of it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
back to New York, and this one sticks out to me. I was walking to my brother's house, and I passed by, like, one of his neighbors, and I recognized him, and I'm like, "Hey,
Yeah.
how's it going?" Like, full eye contact, hand
Yeah.
up, like, "Hey, how's it going?" And, like, I'm watching him, like this, like, as we're, like, walking past each other, and he just, like, makes a face and just does
Yeah.
things. I'm like,
How's it
"What's that?"
going? That's a loaded question in New York.
Yeah, and, like but, like, the "Hey, how's it going?" Whenever people give me a real
Yeah.
response to that, I'm always surprised,
I know.
because it's
Seriously.
more like a hi.
It is. Yeah.
"Hey, how's it going?" is more like, "Hi." That's it. It's just like it's
Right.
not a real question, and so, like,
Yeah.
when I've been at Chipotle, I've, like, said, "Hey, how's it going?" and then, like, immediately started my order, but then the person behind the counter is like, "I'm doing really good. How are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm already saying, "Give me a burrito."
I'm
Okay.
hungry. Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, we're straying too far from the topic, but I love it.
I love it. I'm with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm with the tangents.
Yeah, the tangents are good. They keep it flowing.
That's where the gold is at.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to your music career,
Mhm.
can you share some insights into your experience in managing recording artists and producers?
Yeah, for sure. Like when I was at the University of Florida, I was kind of like lucky enough to meet a really broad range of artists and producers. I worked with like a ska reggae band at one point, like a lyrical rapper, like a trap rapper, a dubstep producer. So it was just a great time at that time to be in music production because everything was just going digital and at such a rapid pace. And it was like everything was really experimental. Just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. So, we started working with so many artists that my buddy and I just started our own production management company, New South, where we just started gaining traction back home in Orlando, actually. And that resulted in us working with, some of the best recording artists in the city at the time. And one of them was, as you mentioned earlier, Nico and Joey. And that was kind of like our first legitimate experience, like handling the affairs of an artist. And there's just so much that goes into it, from the minutia of just dealing with a personality, multiple egos, and really listening and making someone else's like creative goals your own, which is really like a skill in of itself. is really understanding what someone wants to achieve on an artistic level and helping them achieve it, from a like admin business standpoint, is really like the crux of management to me. But managing personalities is really 50-60% of it. And that's any management role, right? Whether you're a manager at like Costco or whether you're managing artists, it's all about managing personalities and aligning with the people you manage, aligning with their goals. So when we managed like Nico and Joey, probably our biggest challenge at that time was like internet promotion and marketing. This was like the height of like the blog era, so it was all about getting your music on Complex or Noisy or Pitchfork or Fader, etc. And the market was becoming so saturated at that time, like everyone was picking up a mic or getting on Logic or FL Studio. So it was really hard to break through all the noise. You had to have like a unique look, great visuals. Music videos were really relevant at that time, on YouTube, and then aligning yourself with other like big acts, so you could break through and attract those platforms. So we didn't really get like a solid buzz until we landed a feature with Action Bronson, who right now is like he's known, as like a food, for food content. But back then he was just like an underground rapper from Queens, and not many people knew about him. So people looked at us kind of funny when we pushed to do a feature with him, because they're like, "What are you gonna get out of this?" I mean, fast forward the clock like 10 years later, right? Like we we kind of got it right back then. So once we released that, we were on all the blogs. We were on Complex. We were on like Vibe Magazine, The Source, and everything kind of got rolling after that. We signed a deal with DJ Small, Southern Smoke, and that eventually led us to Talib Kweli, who really took everything to like the next level.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Are you
Yeah.
still working with New South Music?
No, I've retired New South Music. You could find it on Instagram, and it's kind of
Mm,
just like a time capsule of everything that we did at that time. But New South was really the management company behind Nico and Joey at that time. Beyond that, I kind of broke off and did my own thing as a music manager.
okay.
Um,
When did you say you moved to New York City?
I moved to New York 2014. Yeah,
Okay.
10 years now.
At 10
Crazy.
years, and it goes by fast.
It really does. It really does. But
Uh,
so much happened in that 10 years. It's like,
oh my God. And I think
yeah,
a lot of it we skipped over in like the past 3 or 4 years now because of COVID.
for real. Yeah. COVID was definitely an accelerant for the last, 3 years. Absolutely. I can't believe like 2019 was 5 years ago. Someone told me that the other day, and it just like blew my mind.
That's weird. I was talking to maybe it was you. Maybe I was talking to
Yeah.
you about it, but I uh, I was doing something and it said that uh, the video or something I was looking at came out 5 years ago. And I was like, okay, let me open the description. I think it was a YouTube video I was looking at. And I
Yeah.
opened the description and it said 2019. So I had the same feeling that you're talking about now, where I was like, wait a second, 5 years
Yeah.
ago? That
Yeah.
yeah, so I
2019
was
doesn't seem
like,
long at all, because literally everything just changed after 2020.
yeah.
So it seems like a distant, like something that was pretty close, but it was really that far, that long time ago. You're so right. Like COVID just accelerated everything.
I saw a meme, or I guess is it a meme if it's just like a screenshot of a Twitter post?
I
Because
mean,
like that has
if
so
the
many
Twitter
layers.
post is a meme, then it's still a meme, I guess.
And then it's like someone's Twitter thread, I guess. And then someone posted
Okay.
that on Twitter, and then
Yeah.
somebody else thought, "Ha, that's funny," and then took a screenshot of it, and then posted that on Instagram. There's so many layers to it. But I saw something like that on
Yeah.
Instagram, and it was a person complaining about how they lost their like early 20s
Yeah.
because of COVID, and they went from like uh, being 20 or 21 to 26 or 25 now.
Crazy.
And I'm like,
Crazy.
well, you lost your early 20s. Like, imagine people that were like just like millennials, like our age, going from like their late 20s into their
To
30s.
30s. Yeah, that
Big
was me.
Yeah, that's like
My
a
my
big
30th birthday was May of 2020. Literally
oh my
smack
god.
smack dab in the middle of like
That's
lockdown.
the big 30, and it's in a
Big 3-0 and I couldn't do anything. I was just at
oh my
home.
god, that
Crazy.
sucks. Ah,
So like I think that's another reason why for like us millennials in our late 20s, it's such an accelerant because if there was no COVID, like that's such a monumental shift to where like if you're not giving it any significance, you don't like celebrate it and it's just like another day, you're almost still in your 20s. Like, like you never, it's almost as if you never even hit that milestone. So it is like a weird feeling for sure. I have a lot more like sympathy for people like you were just saying, like you were in school during COVID. Like I'm actually grateful I wasn't in that sort of like transition kind of period, because that's so like just socializing is so important during that time period, so
oh my god. Well, I know that Leonardo DiCaprio,
yeah.
I think the person he's dating right now, if we wanna, like, make it weird about, like, his age and her age, uh, her high school graduation was messed up because of the COVID lockdown. She's
God.
like yeah, which is so
Leo's really out here, man.
yeah, he doesn't care what we think. He doesn't care what anybody
Yeah,
thinks.
yeah,
He's
he's
like
he's living in a different universe.
he knows what he likes, and he just sticks with
Yeah,
it. So, good
yeah,
for him on that part,
he's
but on the
living
other
life by
part
a different set of rules for sure.
yeah. Well, like, it's really weird to think about, like, high school. I was like, I was in my mid-20s going through college,
Yeah.
it was a little weird for me to think about. I'm like, "Okay." Uh,
I love that our tangent landed us on Leo's dating life.
I think,
That's definitely a
yeah,
crazy transition.
I think no matter what people are talking about, somehow it always leads to
It
that.
always ends up.
Yeah, we all and no matter what, every conversation
Yeah,
ends up
yeah.
talking about Leo's dating life.
Right, right, for
I don't
sure.
people have done fantastic, data analysis on his
Yeah,
dating life. They've made spreadsheets and charts, like, on Reddit, there's some posts about,
yeah.
like, the median age, the mean age,
Oh my God.
and it has, like it doesn't have candlesticks like a stock one, but I guess it's just
Right.
a line, like a
Well,
line
you
graph
you
with
you
bars.
definitely gave me like a Reddit wormhole that I'm gonna explore later on tonight, I guess.
Yeah, people put out some, like, time into
Yeah.
it, and I guess, like, through all the effort they put in, it's worth checking out because they make it look really polished. I'm like, "How do you have so much time?" Like, what do you do as your day job that
Right.
you can
Right.
make a graph about somebody's relationships for, like, the past 15 years?
Yeah. Definitely working from home, procrastinating.
Yeah, they just wiggle their mouse, uh,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Teams,
Yeah, right.
and the
Right.
Teams thing lights up again, and then they go back
Right.
to working
Back
on
to
it.
Leo.
Besides Leo's, challenges, what are
Mm.
some challenges you faced? You talked about, managing personalities. Was there a
Hmm.
lot of conflict? 'Cause, like, from what you've said, I can tell you're an empathetic person.
Yeah.
Empathy, putting yourself in their shoes and managing personalities, like, I feel like that's something you were good at. So, tell me about
Yeah.
what made it difficult for you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's something I've always just, I guess, had a knack for, is really listening before speaking and like gaining a deep, like intentional understanding of what someone wants to accomplish. I think there's so many just like transactional interactions nowadays where everyone's just giving you their bio and like a quick little metadata and it's gone and they're on to the next human. They're just collecting humans. And for me it's like intentionality is so important in every sort of like interaction you have, is like really understanding what someone's viewpoint is and why it's that, and I take an interest in that. I don't find it boring. Some of the challenges, I guess, are, when everyone grows at a different pace, you know. So when you start something with someone, you guys may be on the same page, and then as time goes on, you know, their viewpoint may deviate from where you were. So it's important to like always keep tabs on that. And then some of the challenges you face is when, you know, there's a fork in the road, and two people are going in two different directions. And I've learned so much from managing artists about like that trajectory, to where like I can almost like see the signs earlier in my career now than when I was a younger manager, as to where like, okay, you know, this artist or this creative has just given me an indicator on where they may go in a couple of months. So maybe I need to reassess, you know, my involvement, or maybe pivot to, you know, pivot my initial strategy with them. As to where when early in my career, that was a huge challenge for me, to where, you know, hey, we agreed on this, you know, months ago that, you know, this was going to be your image, or this was going to be how, you know, how, the style of music you're going to make. But artists are artists, you know, like a lot of artists get bored with their own music, because you're in the studio for hours just polishing something. And you know, every artist really listens to that one song like thousands of times before it comes out to the general public. So by the time it comes out, they may not even be passionate about it. That's a huge challenge for a lot of artists that I've worked with, and I'm sure artists across every industry, is just creative patience. Creative patience is super undervalued these days. It takes a sense of maturity and understanding that you're an artist, you're creating art, but if you're in it to, you know, if you're in it as a career, you're also creating a product. So, you know, when Tesla is making a new model, they're going to work on it for years, and like they're not like they can't get bored of it by the time it hits market. They have to continue to work on it, continue to refine it, and then continue to promote it once it's out. You know, so like that was always the hardest thing to get across to really pure artists who are like, you know, who I love working. I love working with pure artists who are passionate about the art, who aren't just in it for a quick dollar. But that balance, striking that balance is really important for me.
Wow. Yeah. I can definitely see that being really hard to deal with
Yeah.
because I was listening to a podcast a long time ago about the I think they're brothers, whatever they are, the people that created Stranger Things
Okay.
for Netflix, and they were talking about what you're talking about now. Uh, the audience sees like the whole season that took years to make. They
Right.
watched the whole season in one sitting and
Yeah.
an evening. They,
Right.
grab some snacks and they don't see the everything behind the scenes, and it takes more than a year to make a season for that TV show.
Yeah.
And people
Absolutely.
can watch it in just a sitting. They don't think about what the artists are going through, what the talent managers are going through,
Right.
where it's your brain is constantly evolving. We don't want to stay on the same thing forever.
Right.
We want to adapt and overcome and change and grow. And if we didn't, I think it would be a really bad thing. Becoming
Yeah.
stagnant is, a
Absolutely.
death sentence. In like any field, yeah, any field you're working in, you have to constantly evolve and change.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't, your competitors definitely are.
For
They're
sure.
moving, and either you have to keep up, you have to or lead the way. So
Just think
that
about
that's
like consumption patterns, you know, like nowadays, as you said, you know, we're consuming an entire series that took 2 years to produce in a day. Same thing with music. You're basically skimming through an album on Spotify, maybe liking two or three songs. You may not even listen to the whole song. You may just listen to the first couple seconds. I like this beat. I like this vibe. You know, let me save that. But the artist had to sit there and work on that album, and song selection and production and clearance and everything they had to do. So in a way, it's impacted creativity as well, because from the artist standpoint, they know that as well. And they may be like, let me just make something that's popcorn and that doesn't take me much time, because I know the consumer is not going to take much time sitting with it. Whereas, pre-digital, pre-streaming, people bought an entire album and then sat there and listened to it for months on end, and they may not even like the album when they first listened to it, and it took them like 10 listens, and now they're almost like programmed to like it. So, for the artist, there was just a lot more reward in putting that time in. And now that it's not really rewarded. And if you put too much time in, the sound that you're making may not even be relevant by the time you release it. So it's changed the way people consume music has changed the way people produce music.
Yeah, our consumption culture has really changed. A average TikTok is what, like 10 seconds, maybe
Right.
15
Right.
seconds. And
Right.
then uh, I've seen what it takes to make a TikTok where you're editing a TikTok. It's not like editing a YouTube video or something major, but it's
Yeah,
still a little bit of work that goes into it.
for sure.
For somebody just watch for 15 seconds and
Yeah.
then swipe their finger, and then you're gone from their memory for the rest of their lives. They'll never
Yeah.
remember that they saw your video unless, like the rare occurrence of somebody, becoming an influencer, which is,
I think
the
I think about that a lot nowadays.
yeah,
Is there's just like there's so much noise out there right
yeah,
now. Like it's just a race to make the most content that you can shove down someone's throat and then get ad revenue for. And it's just like for a lot of things you see on the internet, there's not much thought put into it. It's you could tell, someone is just racing to put content out there. And I feel like there's going to be like a pendulum swing, eventually to where there'll be more of an emphasis on, like the creation of like really meaningful art or work. I hope there will be, or things will just get shorter and stupider.
yeah.
Like,
That's the best way to describe it, where they've
all
gotten
right.
stupider because
Yeah.
we've lost a lot of the depth that went
Yeah.
into stuff. Even, people wrote off rap music in the
Right.
early 2000s, but it was poetic and it was deep. It was insightful. It showed their artistic struggles, their personal
Right. It
struggles.
told like it told a story or like a narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They had
Yeah.
lyrics and the production of the beats that went into it.
It had three
Everything
verses.
was
People
perfect.
forget that. Rap songs used to have three verses.
Yeah.
Nowadays they have two at most, maybe one. And the rapper's usually not saying much in the verse, apart from your like Cole Kendrick Drakes. So
Mhm.
yeah, man. It's crazy. It's something I think about a lot, is just like how consumption affects creativity. Super interesting. Maybe I'll write a thesis one day.
I think you should. I think that would be an
Yeah,
excellent thing to write about,
absolutely.
because I really hope that, like you said, the pendulum swings the other direction,
Yeah.
because uh, something's got to change. I don't think this is the right direction that we should be heading, and this is the direction controlled by marketing and greed and
Yep.
just like these TikTok houses. I think it is what they're called, where they put teenagers in a house to
Right.
just
Like an incubator, like a
content.
content incubator. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are
like
popping
it's
up
just,
in LA heavy.
yeah, content
Yeah.
farms. It's
Yep.
it's terrible. So I think we really have to do something to move away from that. We have to get back to giving the
Yeah.
artists the power.
Right.
Because right now the advertisers have the power. They're like, oh, the algorithm doesn't like you because you don't post enough.
Right.
Your sound isn't polished enough, or you don't have the right names attached to your project. So, uh,
Yeah.
like that person could be excellent, but they're written off because
It's just the
they're not
volume. You're if you're not pumping out that volume of content, the algo's not even picking you up. If you're
absolutely.
on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you only have like 100 posts, you're not going anywhere. You're not popping up in anyone's feed.
Yeah.
So they're incentivizing volume over, quality of the content. Um, so, we'll see where things go. You got to play the game the way it's presented to you. So, you know, can only hope for the best. But I always side with creatives. I always side with artists that really put time and as going back to intentionality, like real intention into what they're putting out there. As I said, there's just too much damn noise right now, and I don't think humans are supposed to be consuming that much. I don't think it's good for us.
Yeah, hopefully there's something we can do about it. I really enjoy putting effort into things. My thing is definitely quality over,
Yeah,
just volume. You have
yeah,
to put
absolutely.
time and effort into it, and you're not going to get the results that you really want because everyone in their mind thinks, "Oh, I'm going to put this out, and it's going to be an instant hit because I put so much work into it."
Yeah,
And it's
for
like,
sure.
in school when you think you did amazing on a test, and you're
Yeah,
like, "I aced that test absolutely 100%," and then you get it back, and it's like a D, and,
yeah.
like,
No,
your
that's a
heart
great
drops.
analogy. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like that. It's like you put so much work into a project of yours, and then you're like, "Oh, it got such few listens or hits, but it's so
right.
nice and polished, and there was so much work." And I see, like, I'm recommended by the YouTube algorithm, like, random videos from time to time that only
Yeah.
have, like, 5 or 10 views, and they look fantastic. I'm like, "Is this, like, stolen content? Is this, like,
Yeah.
a bot account, like, overseas somewhere stealing content?" I'm like,
Right.
this is somebody who spent a lot of money on cameras, audio equipment. This is like a $30 mouse and a
Right.
microphone
Right.
from Micro Center.
Yeah.
Like, they've bought, like, real podcast equipment and have real like, guests on, like celebrities, top names, and they have barely any views, and I'm like, what's happening?" This
Crazy.
video's been live for a week, and they've barely
Right.
scratched, like, 1,000 views. So, it's really tough. It's also a lot of luck. You gotta really be lucky to
It's
have
definitely a lot of luck. You have to
it.
generate a moment that people, are going to be attracted to and gravitate towards. I think for podcasts, especially, like that's the turning point usually. And that's a 10-15 second clip, that could, and so you just got to work towards that. You could have 100 episodes with, 100 views each. Definitely podcast long form. You're rewarded by just like your determination to continue doing it. I've had 3 failed podcasts in the past who couldn't get past 7 episodes. I think that's like the threshold. So I hope you get there.
Uh, Even if we don't, we're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure,
We're
man,
gonna
for
do it
sure.
as a labor of love because, we get to connect
Absolutely.
with people like you, and I have a long list of fantastic brown and Muslim Americans who need their voice out there, who deserve their voice out there because of the fantastic work they've done and the motivation they can bring to young Muslim Americans. So, I say, even if you don't get it, you got to keep grinding. And you're
Yeah.
always welcome back on the podcast. I would really like to do an in person podcast one day.
Yeah. That would be
Like,
amazing for
I
sure.
think
As I
that
said, I,
like,
I I love your guys' platform, and I think it's definitely necessary. I think right now especially in New York City, there's definitely like a South Asian, Middle Eastern, creative renaissance. There's so many great, people, and especially within the Muslim community, that are doing things that aren't really highlighted by our own community. They're highlighted by other outlets. So I think what you guys are doing at Mala is great, and kind of consolidating, the Muslims that are in the scene, and giving them a platform. That's super important.
oh, well, thank you for saying that. I
Yeah.
think we're in a very fortunate position to be able to help out other people.
Right. And like beyond the views, you're documenting something as it's happening, and that in of itself is like adds such a value to society. You're documenting what I'm doing, what your next guest is doing in that moment, as a time capsule that people can look back on, which is super important.
I was gonna say that eventually this is gonna serve as our time capsule when,
Yeah.
I think digital media has like a lifespan that I don't think we're ever gonna see the end of. So, like, our children will be able to watch these, their grandkids, and unless some sort of like crazy nuclear apocalypse happens, like,
Yeah.
think even through that, we would probably still somehow save the internet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping
Uh,
my children don't see my failed podcasts. Actually, I should scrape them off the internet. Actually,
you have to do like a digital cleanse. You gotta
yeah,
they're
for
on
real.
social media.
Yeah, man.
I did that with my Facebook. I deleted my Facebook a few years ago because I really didn't like it. I was like, this is terrible. I made it when I was like 10 years old. When
Yeah,
normal people, like not just Mark Zuckerberg's friends, were
yeah.
allowed to make Facebooks, and we had these horrible, cringy little Facebook games. There was like the
Oh
farming
man, I
one.
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the farming one is still around, but like,
It's
there's like
funny because like you used to like talk to your friends through like your Facebook status. So you
yeah,
just say like the most stupid mundane shit and like it's just up on the internet forever. So funny. It's such an innocent era of the internet. I kind of
yeah.
miss that.
Uh, People that grew up before that, I think maybe like that were teenagers in the early 90s and
Yeah.
80s, and I guess definitely before then, but they were very fortunate not to have their stupidity documented.
Oh my
But the
God. Yeah.
things
What a
kids
luxury.
post, I see
Yeah.
the cringiest stuff that kids are posting, and I'm like, "You're gonna regret that probably in, like, a year."
Right.
There's, like,
That's forever.
people singing in
Yeah.
restaurants, there's, like, little kids doing the worst things, and I'm like, "You think it's cool now, little kid, but,
Yeah. Your whole
the second."
timeline is
Yeah,
recorded. It's
yeah.
on the internet forever.
The
That's
second they
scary.
hit puberty and they're like, "Oh, wait, I like girls," and they can see all this cringe stuff I did,
Yeah.
and, if it went viral, good luck trying to take it down. Uh,
Exactly.
some
Exactly.
people's embarrassing, like, viral moments are there forever, like,
Yeah.
everywhere on the internet, and then when they have kids, they're gonna be like, Mom, is this you?" "What are you doing? Why are you singing this song at Applebee's in front of the waitress?" Uh, it's so cringe, and I'm really happy I never did anything that bad,
Yeah.
and,
Same. Likewise.
yeah, we
Well, that I
grew up.
know of, that I remember.
We were fortunate enough to grow up in, like, the mid to late '90s where we didn't
Yeah.
do that too much, and then, we were a little bit more mature when Facebook came out, and we could think ahead just a tiny bit. Like, "Hey, should
Yeah.
I see this cringe thing? Should I,
Yeah.
make a video about doing this dumb thing?" Okay, I love these tangents.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you elaborate on your current role as General Counsel for Avant Gardner?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Avant Gardner, for those who don't know, one of the largest, the largest standing room entertainment venue in North America. It's in Brooklyn, capacity over 6,000 people. And primarily electronic music shows. So yeah, at Avant Gardner, I serve as general counsel and on the corporate level, but I have the unique opportunity of wearing so many hats and advising on everything from marketing to acquisitions to booking shows. Things like, for booking shows, you got the performance agreements and various production deals that we strike with the performing artists, and then marketing, privacy issues, IP issues. And with the venue itself, this is a massive venue in the middle of Brooklyn, and operating it, it's operating in New York City is just a different beast. Tons of permitting, liability, insurance, various licenses that you need to do so. It's just a big bowl of stew. But I love just like the breadth of experience it affords me. Um, and in my role, I've just been blessed to be able to um introduce the venue and the staff to music, or like communities that I have a personal stake in or that I'm interested in. So you don't get that with a lot of your jobs, and especially me. This was my first job in the legal industry. I did music early on. I did sync licensing for a label, but I kind of deviated, and I had to pay my bills. So I did real estate commercial litigation for a while. I was a traditional lawyer. I was going to court, advocating for my clients. I worked my way up to kind of corporate counsel, working for large corporations, but still on the outside. And that allowed me to kind of transition to an in-house role. So I'm not really with a firm. I'm employed by the company, and I'm the only lawyer on staff, and I kind of assist on everything legal. So yeah, it's been a blessing so far. These past 2 years have been a complete roller coaster, but every second of it is invaluable experience. So I'm grateful for it.
So when you were a regular lawyer, how long did you do that for?
Did that for about 3 to 4 years in the city of New York, Kings County, New York County, just swimming with the sharks, man. It's some of the most litigious courtrooms in the world. So that really just sharpened my legal acumen and my ability to negotiate and zealously advocate for my clients. So,
What was the craziest thing you saw in a courtroom in New York?
oh, craziest thing I saw in a courtroom, man. I worked in a housing court in Kings County for a while, and that was crazy. And it was sad because it was evictions and things like that. So I think probably the craziest thing I saw was, this gentleman was being evicted, and he he spat at the judge. I mean, the judge was really far away, so he didn't really have the length to hit the judge. Kind of like the viral the viral clip that's going around about with the guy that lunges at the judge. It was
That's where I was
somewhat
going
of
with
it
this.
was like it was like a minor, like a less egregious version of that. But that's probably the craziest thing I ever seen. Other than that, it's pretty tame, just your average kind of oral arguments and things like that.
Yeah, that's pretty tame for, New York.
Yeah. Look, I wasn't in criminal court, I wasn't like
Yeah.
McCoy in Law and Order. I'm sure that's a lot more passionate. And, I was doing things that are more business oriented, contract disputes, lease disputes, things like that. They're not as impassioned as, someone facing life in prison for something like that. So people think, a lot of outsiders think that's what lawyers do on a day to day. Most lawyers have a more mundane version of that. They're not yelling at the judge. So
What do you think of the clip of the man? If okay, so for the people at home that don't know what we're talking about, a man in a clip is getting, I think he's getting sentenced, but he flies over the judge's table and is able to tackle her and is then assaulting her, and people are stopping him. Eventually he is stopped. But it's going around, it's making the rounds on the internet right now.
I'll
What
give
do
you
you think
just
of
like kind of an insider opinion on that.
that?
Through my time in the court system, judges vary. It is just like the spectrum is really broad. You could find really empathetic judges, quiet, reserved, and then you see the loud judges that are will speak over you or that are a bit abrasive. So it's like it's a luck of the draw on what judge you get. Not every judge runs their courtroom the same. So like when I was listening to what this judge was telling this gentleman prior to him lunging at her, it did come off a bit condescending to me. Obviously I'm a legal professional. I'm not going to lose my demeanor if someone were to speak to me like that. But this gentleman, right before he lunged at her, he was telling her how he's changed his life and how he's off drugs, and he seemed really passionate about that and proud of it. So for her to just say, cut him off, basically, read out his entire rap sheet of like everything he's done in his entire life. She was like armed robbery and this and that and drug offenses. I could see where he would rise to the level because to him it's like I'm really like speaking on I've had a rough past, but for me to overcome that was extremely difficult. For her to dismiss that in her tone, I think was not her fault, but it lends it lends me more, I guess, a bit more empathy to the individual. Obviously, you shouldn't lunge at a judge, but I guess if I'm just going to analyze, the situation, that's kind of where, because I've come across judges like that as well, to where, and I understand the job. You're seeing, one litigant after another, and it becomes like a numbers game, and I guess you become distant and cold to a certain extent. You have to; it's part of the job. But you know, fuck around, find out.
Uh, from what I read on the internet, and as you know,
Yeah.
everything you read on the internet is true. The original judge that he lunged at
Yeah.
made it a point that she didn't add any charges or change any of the original charges uh, towards him for him lunging at her. But
Well,
then,
yeah, a lot of people misinterpreted that. She just had him back as on a procedural grounds because she wasn't able to render her original opinion. So I think procedurally she couldn't even really go back and change that because that's a separate trial now
oh
that
yeah,
she's not going to oversee. You
right,
understand? So she just brought him back so she could finish what she was saying, and he lunged at her like mid sentencing. So it,
yeah.
I don't even think she would, if she wanted to, she would be able to change his sentence because that's going to be a totally separate trial, and she's biased at this point. She can't even oversee that trial. So
The clip. So there's a new judge, and he is already facing charges for what he did to her.
I can imagine.
And the new judge, it sounds brutal. She's one of the loud judges that
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah,
talking about.
yeah, yeah.
She's very strong, and
Yeah.
she seems very powerful. It's great, and
No, look,
she's
that's
really throwing the
completely
book at
like that's completely unacceptable as a legal professional. Anyone lunging at a lawyer or a
her. Mhm.
judge, these people are just doing their jobs, and they're dealing. The thing is, the thing you have to remember as a legal professional is you are dealing with people's lives and people that come from harsh backgrounds that aren't as amenable to taking advice or criticism. They're just not programmed to do that a lot of times. So I think that's just something legal professionals need to be mindful of. But irregardless, it's completely unacceptable to lunge at a judge or a lawyer who's just doing their
I agree.
job, you know. Absolutely. Same with like a comedian, people are attacking comedians nowadays. It's just like it's completely out of control. Like when someone's just doing a job, there's no reason for, to assault them. That's completely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen clips of comedians doing stand-up being, chased
Yeah.
or assaulted. One of the comedians shared the video himself, and he, narrated over it, and he showed the guy. First, he like stands up and he's arguing with him, and like the guy on stage is a comedian. He's gonna be funnier than the guy in the audience. There's a reason he's on stage.
Right.
He probably has a quicker wit and more words in his arsenal to
Yeah.
throw
And
at
it's like
somebody.
whatever happened to like just like
Yeah,
having a creative license or just
yeah,
like immunity. You're doing your job, you should be immune from any sort of attack
yeah.
but people just have boundary issues these days, you
They
know?
really do. I think it's
Yeah.
an issue of taking things too personally, yeah,
Yeah.
getting offended by everything, even if it's not directed at them.
Yeah. It's
It's
crazy. Not for that
it,
at all.
yeah, it's crazy, and because of the reach that social media has, and everybody has a cell phone now, so we're able to see moments like that 24/7, even though they've definitely been
Yeah.
happening for a long time. Now we're just able to readily see
You
them
got
at
Will
the
you got Will Smith leading by example.
oh my god.
Uh,
Is he doing anything now?
I think he recently came out with a movie, but I didn't hear much about it.
I haven't heard him working on any projects.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
really quiet on his side. Actually, no, I hear constant things about his wife or ex-wife.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
I yeah,
entirely sure
Jada.
what
Yeah,
this
Jada just came out with a book, so she went like on a press run. That's probably why
yeah.
you heard a lot
I'm
about
I'm
it.
not gonna talk about her because this is gonna be, put on YouTube, and I don't want anything, taken out of
You don't,
context or even in context because
yeah, you don't
I've
want no
seen
smoke with Will. You don't want no smoke with Will,
oh
man.
my god, I gotta make sure my door's locked. I don't wanna get slapped. Oh my god. But, there's a lot of really good memes about her,
Yeah.
fantastic stuff. Like her history with Tupac, her other relationships.
Right. August Alsina.
It's all
That's a whole other
fantastic.
podcast, man.
Yeah, as a kid, I really wondered what or how my parents are into the news or celebrity gossip, but then, being almost,
Yeah.
close to their age, like they were
Right.
at one point my age, um, you know, like seeing that, yeah, I could see how they're into that. Like my girlfriend and I love game shows. We
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
I hate celebrity culture because they're so disconnected from reality and the common person.
Absolutely.
But then when a little bit of celebrity gossip comes out, I'm like, give me the juicy details. I need to know. And then
I think
I'm
it's
like,
also like a
uh,
reflection of as an adult, it's just
yeah,
like a reflection of how we move about in society, and I think unfortunately a lot of times that's dictated by celebrities or whoever's has the most visibility, right? And it
right.
becomes like that's code, which is why it's unfortunate when you got a Will Smith or you have people step out of line and that just encourages that sort of behavior.
Yeah, amazing. All right. So back to our normal questions.
Sure.
Your commitment to providing platforms for AAPIs and POCs is amazing and commendable. Uh, how do you actively work towards promoting inclusivity within the music and entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, that's something the past 2 years that I've really honed in on. And I myself I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I think it's all about for me, keeping my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the diaspora. It's such an incredible time for in NYC, as I said, for Asian creatives. It's to me, it's truly a renaissance. There's so many artists across so many different genres, kind of all rapidly blowing up and gaining an audience. And it seems like it's at the same time because I think just us as a culture are really starting to own our roots and our art, and value it a lot more than we did in the past. I love being able to study that and really bring it back to the team at Avant Gardner and inform them of hey, this is a cool DJ collective and this is their audience, this is what they stand for, this is the kind of music they make, and kind of putting them on to communities that are otherwise don't get much representation on the dance floor, especially in dance music, especially in electronic dance music, very Eurocentric um, kind of industry. And now you're seeing Afro house blow up. You're seeing, tech house blow up. And then the group I've been working with, Indo Warehouse, who's kind of blending, South Asian sounds and like Bollywood and Punjabi folk with kind of like a Tulum, electronic sound. It's so cool to see like our culture and our people like repackage things that we have familiarity with or like nostalgia associated with, and make it in not so many words, make it cool, make it something people can dance to, something that's relevant now. That's super exciting for me. So in the past year I've helped facilitate a relationship with the venue and Indo Warehouse, and they did two sold out shows at Great Hall, which is like our 3,000 cap venue. And then this past August, they were able to do the Brooklyn Mirage, and they did 4,000 plus people on a Sunday. Um, you know, Listening to basically South Asian music combined with house music at one of the
Wow.
largest stages in the world. So that's just really eye opening for me, and it's an indicator, to me to just keep doing it, keep bringing brands in, because obviously there's an appetite for that, in the market. No Nuzzer is another great dance party, LA based, and they mix kind of like Afro Caribbean with South Asian music and like Afro beats. It's more hip hop oriented, and they've done two shows at the venue as well. So there's other we got Chinese New Year event. We have, Disco Tehran's done an event there, and Laylit, which is like a Middle Eastern dance party. They did a takeover during Boiler Room there, and it's like Arabic music and belly dancers, and so just to see that in that space, which even I've always thought is like, we don't belong there yet, or we haven't, reached that level yet. To see that all happen in the past 2 years has been super rewarding for me. And just, I just want to do more of it, and I just want to find what's next, who needs to be platformed, who really deserves, a space on that dance floor.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you said electronic dance music, and I don't know why, but that somehow just clicked in my head that that is what EDM means. I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
stopped to think about what, like, the
yeah,
acronym
yeah.
EDM stands for. Hopefully, I'm using the word acronym correctly now.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, EDM is EDM," it sounds like this, but yeah, I guess electronic dance music.
Yeah, it's like an umbrella term,
Mhm.
but people also nowadays use EDM, like the acronym EDM, to signal more of like a commercial pop dance music, like your David Guetta's and like your Calvin Harris, like the stuff you'll hear on the radio is called like EDM, whereas like the stuff you'll hear like at a dance club or like a Mirage is you typically more house music, or like techno. But these things are used interchangeably. So, but yeah, there's a lot of minutia in the genre for sure.
So, going back to more acronyms, what does, AAPI stand for? I think that's Asian American
Pacific Islander. Yeah.
Pacific Islander, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and, for people that don't know, POC is person of color.
Correct. Yeah.
I have to say that because, I'm how old am I? Let me do some math. Let me count on my fingers.
Yeah, you got to count it up.
I'm 27,
Yeah.
so, I lost my mid-20s to COVID
Right. Right. Right.
because,
True.
going to COVID, I was, like, 23, and boom,
Early
all of a
20s.
sudden,
Now you're
I'm
in
in
your
my
late
late
20s.
20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But, yeah, when I got out the army, I was hearing, person of, like, POC, and there's, like, a ton of other ones, and I
Yeah.
had never heard them because, like, the military, I was in the South, I wasn't in an environment that really, um, they cared about inclusivity, but they're really not hip with it.
Right.
So,
Right.
they're about a decade behind in d I guess lingo and
Right.
what social media is doing. So I was hearing all these going around, and I was like, "Am I really that disconnected? Am I, like, really that old that I don't know
No,
what
it's not your old.
POC?"
I mean,
Yeah,
I would say these I guess categories and kind of like groupings, they are important in just like identifying who's at play, who is exactly at play, or if there's a disenfranchised group, why that's the case. But yeah, there are a lot of acronyms nowadays. Absolutely. I'm definitely
yeah.
with you on that.
It could always use more acronyms. We had a lot of acronyms in the
Because look,
military.
you never want to leave people out, right?
Yeah,
Like when you say like something's Indian, right? But you're referring to something that's globally South Asian, Pakistanis do it, Bangladeshis do it, Sri Lankans do it. You're leaving out, millions of people when you refer to them like that. I think
yeah, absolutely.
API is a great kind of broad term. Yeah, and you bring in East Asians as well. And there's power in numbers, especially in the US. Like I think AAPI unity is so important. I love going to like more East Asian events and meeting them, and like as I said, power in numbers, especially in the entertainment industry where we're underrepresented and there's so few of us. The more community we have and the more dialogue we have between each other, just the more representation you're going to see, as a final product.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you know. But yeah, I mean, like, man, this you got to come out to one of these events. I got to take you out.
Yeah, sure. I'd love
Seeing
to.
it,
Yeah,
seeing
that's
it is definitely where you like experiencing it is where you like really get it. Like, oh, okay, there's something going on here that's like new and special. It's like kind of an energy that you probably never felt before, and it's like a pride because it's like You know, growing up, coming up in New York, we never had platforms like this. Like from what I remember, like 2015, 16, you had a few like Bollywood nights, like at like a musty club in like Midtown. Um and it's like that's all you had, and it didn't like speak to like the Asian American experience too much. And now as I said, you have like if you like hip hop, you can go to a South Asian hip hop show. If you like EDM, you could go to a South Asian rave. So like there's something for everyone, which is great. It's like to see that growth is super cool, and that's only going to get bigger. Like if you look at reggaeton, you look at like Afro beats, like these are sounds that are coming from different languages, different cultures, like K-pop, like that's Korean pop music. Like why can't there be something that big for, South Asians or Middle Easterners? I think that's next, someone that like a AP Dylan who's like a global superstar, but he's rapping in Punjabi. You can't really understand what he's saying, but it's a bop, it's a vibe, like.
Yeah.
And I think that's inevitable for us for sure. We're going to see something like that very soon. And shout out to Indo Warehouse for sure. Right now they're on tour in India. They're doing 10 cities, and they've sold out pretty much every show they've done. They just did Dubai. They did Bangalore. They're doing Pune like tonight. So super proud of them. It's just like they were just doing like a 200-person room like last year, and that was like their biggest show. So to see like how far they've come is crazy.
Yeah, that growth is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's definitely a market for it. The
Yeah.
audience for, South Asian culture that's relatable has really grown, and people are really trying to find a space in there. And
Yeah.
I think, we're coming up at a perfect time where our market hasn't become oversaturated yet, and we can
Yeah.
really carve out a space for ourselves.
I think
But
so for
uh,
sure. Yeah.
as a part of that, what are some upcoming projects and goals of yours?
Um, after seeing what Indo did at Mirage, it kind of opened everyone's eyes to the possibilities of, playing like a 6,000 room. Definitely one of my goals is to go even bigger, do like a full venue takeover this year, all South Asian DJs. Um, I would also love to do more with the Afro House community, and the Latin House community in NYC. And yeah, just more like cultural based house music, and platforming it, and growing it bigger, and expanding to an audience beyond just South Asians. As I said, like the true goal is to translate to other audiences, to like a white or black American audience, to come in and appreciate the music, even though they don't really know its roots or origins. Like just like, oh, this is a cool sound, and I want to listen to this more, and I want to find out other artists and DJs that do this. Like that's really the goal, is to break out of our own audience, you know. So whatever I can do to advance that would be amazing.
Yeah, we definitely have the same goals in mind. I
Yeah.
think that's incredible. Where can people reach you at? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, I'm primarily
Instagram.
on Instagram at Face Team. That's FAIS Team TEAM. Just give me a follow, shoot me a DM. I'm open to starting conversations with whoever wants to build something. I love, outside of just what I do at AG, I love just helping people, giving advice to young creatives that are coming up on what direction they need to take and how to protect their creations. So
I think people would be very lucky to reach out to you, to someone that has so much experience in so many different fields, the creative field, the production field, and now the legal field, and so many different aspects of each one. We can go down the rabbit hole of like each of those. And they would be very lucky
oh, I
to
appreciate that, man. It's
be
really
able to
nice of you
speak
to
to
say.
somebody.
For me, like as I said, I mean, if you followed me, if you followed since the beginning of the podcast, for me, I'm a creator first before a lawyer. So I truly love just music and seeing an idea, manifest into something tangible. So the law is just one aspect of that, but any sort of creative consulting, if you're a creator, hit me up. Let's build.
That's perfect. Yeah. Well, I want to really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been amazing talking to somebody like you, someone really incredible. Like we
Thank
have to
you.
have you back so I
Appreciate
can pick
that.
your
Love.
brain even further.
Would love
And
to come back. And as I said, I
yeah,
love what you guys are doing. Would love to get involved and help out in any way I can. I think this is so important. You and me kind of had a talk on the side for young Muslims because coming up, I didn't have many role models in the creative industry that were Muslim or looked like me or had the same background. And now there's more of us, and it's important for us to pass that on to kids coming up, so they could see a proof of creation. They could see it happening in real life. You doing a podcast and me what I'm doing in the musical space. Just someone younger coming up seeing that is so crucial, because we didn't have that. So
yeah, it was really hard for us to find somebody like that. I would say
yeah.
just I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that wasn't just somebody I would call an uncle or an auntie
Right,
who
right,
was like our age now. Like when I was like 10 years old, I'm like, oh, that person, like, okay, they're doing the same thing their dad did. They're
right.
doing the same
They're
thing
all
their
in
mom
med
did.
school.
Yeah,
No knock.
my God. Yeah, there's a lot more to our identities than what our parents did. We have this amazing opportunity as Muslim Americans to carve out our own space,
Yep.
build our community. Now is a fantastic time to do it. So, yeah, thank you so much again, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Faisal.
Bye.